Hello, welcome back to the Cricket Draft Show, where we are getting towards the end of game week 6. We have one game left remaining. A few of us have got some players left. Most of us have used all of our players up over the course of the week, so we've got plenty to talk about. We are getting towards the business end of the competition. My name is Dan Jadzevics. I am your host. I'm joined by Dan Weston, our analyst, and Chris Dixon returns, our game expert, having had a couple of weeks off. I think he must have it was a long hangover, was it, from New Year's, Chris, or something like that?
No, certainly not. Just busy over the New Year period, wasn't able to make it, unfortunately.
All right. Well, we'll let you off anyway. But if you're new around here, consider subscribing to the channel. Drop us a like on the video as well. It helps us out massively. And if you've got any comments, any questions, drop them in the comment box and we'll get back to you as well, because that helps us out too. Yes, as I said, we are at the end of game week 6. There's plenty to talk about. I don't know out of Dan or Chris, which one of you two would like to talk first about your teams and performances, and whether double captains or 12th players were the right decisions to make this week, or have you been let down by the weather?
All of the above, mate, to be honest with you. It's a story of the weather and a story of all-rounders. So obviously the game today was rained off, which is a big problem for people who have teams like me who focused on bringing in those double game week players this week. Kind of been punished for that approach. Means that you also used double captain on Chris Green as well, so he's on -10, wonderful. And Chris Jordan, I think, was on like 40 something as well. So my two captains, not ideal at all. Still though, got to keep the faith. And Ben Duckett, Peter Siddle, Ben Dorshers, all playing tomorrow, just below game week average so far. So not a massive disaster. Although I'm giving Will Sutherland some love. I'm going to be honest with you. He's got 60.5% of my points for the week, and he wasn't even one of my double captains. And I kept faith after 17% of teams dropped him after 34 points in his double game week. So, yeah, it's what we talked about last week then, wasn't it? About keeping faith in those all-rounders, and they eventually come up in the end.
Absolutely. I think he's the highest point scoring all-rounder in the competition as well on the Cricket Draft game. And
I think he's the highest point scorer, full stop.
All positions. And I mean, what a different conversation the three of us could be having if you'd have stuck in with the captain's armband as well.
Oh, or if I dropped him.
Or if you dropped him. Two completely different conversations. But not a bad week, I don't think, really and truly. I mean, we can't really do anything about the weather, as we spoke about. But Chris, obviously, we need to have a bit of a longer catch-up with you, because we've not had updates from your team over the last couple of weeks. But how's it looking over in the game experts world?
Not as good as it was looking early on in the competition for me. Especially this week, I had bought in a few Hurricanes players because they've got a double game week. I did actually saw the chance that it was going to rain, but I kind of brought them in anyway because they do have another double game week coming up. So in terms of looking at the longer term investment, that was there. So I brought in Chris Jordan, Matthew Wade back from injury, and Nathan Ellis as my 3 Hurricanes players there for 2 double game weeks in 3. But of course, they only played the 1 game this week. And then there's a few players that didn't play. Josh Brown got injured. Matty Hurst was dropped. Fergus O'Neill was dropped. Fraser McGurk got a duck. Cooper Connolly got a duck. So it hasn't been the best week for me this week. I've got a few Stars players playing tomorrow, but yeah, looking ahead and seeing if I can recover some of my losses in positions and see where that goes.
And you've still got that googly to play as well, haven't you?
I've got the 12th man. Yes, I've played my double captain, but I've got my 12th man. So I'll need to have a look at when I plan to play that. So
okay. Yeah. Well, I climbed from 647th to a dizzying 610th so far overall in the competition, which when the week started, I really thought I'd crack something. I'd done similar to yourself, Dan. I'd bought in 3 Hurricanes players and 3 Thunder players with an eye on the fact that they both had 2 games this week, and the fact that the Hurricanes have got, as Chris mentioned, another double game week. I don't think it's game week 7, but I think it's game week 8 off the top of my head. We spoke a lot about Chris Jordan, and we spoke a lot about differences that potentially players like myself that need to catch up would need to do. So I ignored the fact that Chris Jordan was going to be your captain, and I went for Mitch Owen, who started off like an absolute rat up a drain pipe, 260 points. I'm thinking, this is the best decision I've ever made in my life. Nobody else is going to have captained him in this double game week. He's going to go massive against the Heat, and then he's going to go massive again against the Thunder, and I'm going to be right chasing your guys' tails. Then obviously, as we spoke about, the Hurricanes versus the Thunder got washed out, so we lost that one. Neither team had a double game week, so I had 6 players that only played once anyway. Chris Green was in the negatives, which we've already spoken about. I have used my googlies now. I have no 12th player googly left. So I've double captained, which was a failure. And worryingly, I think my 12th player googly might have been a bigger failure than my double captain because, as Chris has just mentioned, Fergus O'Neill got dropped. Laurie Evans was sat on my bench and he got a duck. Cooper Connolly picked up 0 points across the course of the game as well. Josh Brown got dropped. So what I needed is Fergus O'Neill to play as my 12th player and then Laurie Evans to go in and replace Josh Brown with the injury. But actually, that hasn't really affected anything one way or other. And yeah, Josh Brown, he's been replaced by that T20 powerhouse that is Marcus Harris. So yeah, what a week. What a week. But I've got 420 points, 374th overall. And I think after that first couple of days, I think I was 13th in the world. So it was a glimmer of hope, chaps. It was a glimmer of hope, but I'm a distant third place at the minute.
You're one Mitch Owen century away from being top of the league this week.
Maybe. But I'm sure somebody else has got him, haven't they? In terms of our little league, though, we've as you said, you've still got some players to play. I think I've still got Ben Dwarshuis, but Dan, I know you've got 3 players. Chris, I know you've got 2. Dan, you've dropped from 184th to 211th. Chris, 158th to 245th. And in terms of our league, there is a 61-point difference between first and second place. Dan, you're currently in first, having picked up 370 game week points, and you've got 4,090 overall. Chris, second, 246 game week points, 4,029 points overall. And I'm currently in third, and I'll call it third, not last, with 3,323 points, which is a dizzying 761 points behind yourself, down in first place.
Well, yeah, but as I said earlier before we went on air, catching up by sort of 100 points, 200 points each week, there's plenty of time still to go.
If we had another 8 weeks of the Big Bash, I might be thinking positively, but I think I've got bronze locked in. Chris, 61 points is nothing, is it? Like that's kind of that's a couple of wickets or a couple of decent catches or whatever that might be, and all of a sudden you've gained that back on Dan and you're neck and neck again.
Yeah, certainly not much to play for there. I mean, that's it's less than one chance for someone making a minus 75 in 1 week. That's that's you above them, so it can easily be recouped. So yeah, all hope is not lost for me yet. Still plenty of time to go, despite being towards the end of the group stages now. So yeah, I'll see what I can do.
767 points, bit much.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's harder from that position, but if you take some risky strategies, isn't got nothing to lose, and there's still despite not being loads and loads of game weeks, there's still enough to be able to make a difference. And I've seen it done. You can have people getting over 1,000 points in game weeks. If you a few of those, then you never know.
The comeback of dreams. You never know. Let's have a look at game week 7 then, Dan, and let's start with yourself. You've obviously double captained this week, so that googly's done and dusted. What are you looking at? Who are you looking for? Are you gonna double googly your team and go back to back googlies? What's the plan for game week 7?
I don't think I'm going to go double googly. We've only got 2 free transfers again, so every team's got 1 game, so there's no double game weeks for any team. As we've mentioned, Hobart have got 2 games in week 8, so that automatically means that I'm not ditching any Hobart players. Stars don't have a game in game week 8, so and obviously, even though they've picked up a couple of wins recently, probably underdogs to qualify. So it looks like Stars players going to be eased out in the end. I know Ben Duckett's, I think, got to leave after a couple more game weeks as well, and he's been a good earner for me. So probably ease out some Stars players. If I can, I might upgrade my bench with a view to playing that 12th man googly at some stage in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, a lot to think about. Obviously, a few Aussie players coming back. Sam Constas, I'm sure, will be popular at his price point. Maybe even the most interesting player from Australia returning is actually Dan Christian at 4.4 million. I think he is in the game now. Which I mean, when I knew Thunder were looking for an all-rounder, but I did not have Dan Christian on my bingo card. And 41-year-old Dan Christian, who we actually picked up quite a few points, I think, in on his. Or was he actually even in the game? I'm not sure, but he would have picked up a lot of points if he was in the game this week.
Sounds like you might be pretty close to taking a penalty transfer there with a few of those player moves that you might need to be doing.
I reckon I can get away with it.
Yeah.
Without one. Yeah. I'll probably miss out. I might lose 1 Stars player for somebody, and then upgrade the bench in some way, shape, or form, and then that'll be a bit about it for me. So minor tweaks, I think.
Well, you're there to be shot at the top of the table. Chris, what ammunition have you got to take the fight to Dan Weston?
So I'm going to simply I need to get rid of a few of these players. I have 5 players that didn't feature over my other whole squad, so I'm trying to still get a settled squad where I can look to playing the googly later on. So I'm not really in a position to look too far ahead in terms of who's getting through or who's double captain in future week, or who's going to be my captain in future weeks. I've got the 3 Hurricanes players, so I've got that base sorted for next week, but I still need to get the core sorted. So the likes of Josh Brown, how bad is his injury? He's going to come back in when he's fit. It seems like they said just a niggle, so does that mean he's going to come back? I need to weigh that up. Matty Hurst, I don't foresee coming back now that they've Josh Ingles is gone and Matty Hurst is still not even playing in the side. They've given the gloves to Finn Allen, so he's one I may offload. Fergus O'Neill, again, is another one but he's so cheap, so he's actually worth just keeping in because he's so cheap if he does come back. So these are the kind of decisions I'm going to have to weigh up going forward, and then see if I can recoup some of my losses from the last few weeks.
Yeah. It sounds like you've got a plan. I'm guessing there's no penalty transfers. There's no big roll of the dice yet for you.
No, I will try to avoid that. I hope I can avoid the penalty transfers and just chip away with a few transfers each week until to the knockouts, and then go crazy and see what I can do.
Still a few games to play. Still a few game weeks to get through. I've got injury doubts for Nick Hobson, for Josh Brown. I believe Laurie Evans has gone off now. I think he's left the Renegades. Constas is really attractive of an option to bring in because he's cheap, but I've already got 3 Thunder players in there, which means I'm going to have to guarantee swapping out a Thunder player for a Thunder player, which I may or may not want to do. I don't know. Nathan McAndrew is back and fit, which is exciting, but potentially that limits Wes Agar's opportunities for the Thunder. I do have those 3 Hurricanes players, which, as you've said, Chris, is kind of a really nice kind of banking position to start at there. Jamie Overton needs a replacement before too long, which I could swap out for Cooper Connolly to bring up onto the bench and rotate Brown that way to save on 75 points potentially, or obviously someone the likes of Bo Webster returning from that test setup, or maybe even the aforementioned Will Sutherland to bring into the team. But if I'm looking to gain points, I don't necessarily think picking one of the players that's actually got the most kind of high or the highest percentage of ownership in the game is particularly the smartest thing for me to do. So I don't know. Any advice for me, chaps, or are you just going to leave me to rot 800 points behind you?
You're getting a bit too close for comfort now. No advice offered here.
Same here.
I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way, and I'd be doing the exact same for you guys as well. Thank you so much, chaps, for joining us over the course of these kind of 10, 12 minutes. Hopefully those that have watched it have enjoyed it. As I said earlier, if you can drop us a like on the video, if you can leave us a comment as to what transfers you're going to be making, where you are in the world at the minute, who your best player has been, anything like that, we'd love to hear from you. And we will see you next week when we get to the end of game week 7, where hopefully I've chipped off another couple of 100 points off you boys, and you're scrapping over first place, and you've forgotten about the one on the outside rail coming off at 3rd place.